Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Collihew. We are, as always, talking wrestling here today because there's always a lot of wrestling going on. There are quite a few headlines to cover and a few discussion points I want to touch on. We're going to be starting by talking about the impending return of Roman Reigns, early plans for Wargames, changes to the MFT, and what's going on with John Cena. We're also going to be talking about that match on Smackdown between Nia Jax, Jade Cargill and Tiffany Stratton. We're going to be talking the return schedule for Brock Lesnar, who is once again on holiday. There's a couple of stories that have been confirmed from what I've already reported that I'm going to be highlighting as well. Braun Strowman has got a new job, an acting job, so something that he was pushing towards. And we're also going to be talking about a wrestler who is doing everything possible to get another match for the World Championship. Or at least, in this case, the WWE Championship. I spoke on Friday about one of the things I'm working towards with this channel. The YouTube platform no longer pushes live content. It doesn't. From the YouTube angle, Twitch has already lost. Twitch got beat. Nothing else matters. From that, they've moved on. And now the focus is on shorts to beat TikTok. However, YouTube are now reaching the point where they're pretty confident they've done that too. With that in mind, there are new areas that the YouTube platform is trying to focus on. And one of the main ones right now is podcasts. In fact, we now have YouTube using AI to determine what on a podcast is worthy of pulling apart and making into a short. Because you're now getting the crossover of shorts made from podcasts. This potentially makes things quite easy for me. I can pull apart a spoiler warning show and create a podcast. We could do a weekly podcast where we just do, here's the news. However, my business model here on YouTube for years has been news focused. It's been, this is what's happening now. Because of that, for years, the only views I get are when we're live. That's never been a problem. My interest is in informing people. My interest is in sharing news with people. If you're not here, you can catch up. Or you don't have to. And you see, this is one of the reasons we're struggling at the moment. YouTube has changed its practice. You may have noticed it's not pushing my content to you very much anymore. And that's because YouTube is guilty of something called recency bias. If you don't watch every one of my shows, it won't feed you any of my shows. If you're not here week in, week out, if you're just busy for a few days, which we all have moments where we are, YouTube will forget about me. And that makes things difficult to grow. With this in mind, spoiler warning will keep being a live show, but we'll be taking moments, elements out of it. And that will become part of a new podcast. Nice and simple. Yes, Bismo, that is one of the problems that we're having. Notifications aren't going out. You have to actively look for spoiler warning to find it, which is one of the reasons I'm using the community page. But you're not going to be fed anything from the community page unless you're clicking like on the community page. So much difficulty to it. Thank you, Cal, that's what we're thinking. So we'll have a live spoiler warning. We'll then compile a weekly podcast from that. And then from that podcast, we will create, essentially, shorts. So the spoiler warning podcast will be going live this week. Because it's directed towards an audience who will be tuning into the podcast, I will be cutting out the conversation. That's just how this is going to go. With this in mind then, there is something that I would like to talk about to sort of start the podcast off right. I want to start by discussing a big piece of news that hopefully has got a lot of people searching, a lot of people interested in what's going on. Because for months, even potentially years, we're going to be talking about the fact that WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble, for 10 years, WWE have been going to Saudi Arabia. Now, I do not watch the shows in Saudi Arabia because, to be blunt, I do not trust the WWE's deal with Saudi Arabia. I do not trust the amount of major events, major names, celebrities, comedians are going to Saudi Arabia. And I want to explain why, from my angle, this is really harming my investment in a wrestling product that I've been watching for 27 years. Off and on, but 27 years. Why, for the past 10 years, I've been working with sites like PW Torch, like Sportskeeda, like Fansided. I've been working to try and deliver independently news to you. And I still cannot get behind this whole Saudi Arabia thing. To date, I have watched one Saudi Arabia show before I learned more. So I want to start by talking about WWE's relationship with Saudi Arabia. Firstly, the amount of money changing hands is utterly insane. And it gives the Saudi Arabian kingdom government, whatever it is, enough power to essentially book WWE in their own image. The one show I did watch, The Greatest Royal Rumble, featured a fake Yokozuna. It featured a fake Andre the Giant. It also featured literal propaganda plugged into the show, celebrating how great and progressive Saudi Arabia is. Because hey, if there's a man there, a woman can drive now. We had the Evolution pay-per-view because women weren't allowed in Saudi Arabia. I remember myself reporting years ago that the first women's match would feature Natalya in Saudi Arabia. She was already committed to it years before it happened. Years before it happened. She wanted to get out there and have that match. And she did. So the WWE get to pat themselves on the back for this. They get to pretend that it's not all about the money, even though it's a company, everything is about the money. They get to basically just cry foul of anyone who doesn't follow what they're doing, who doesn't say, hey, this Saudi Arabia deal is incredible, it's creating opportunities, it's doing this. The accusations of sports washing are genuine. This is a country that has committed some heinous crimes and has been caught doing it. Getting down to a personal level, before we talk, by the way, about the whole plane not being allowed to take off business, before we talk about WWE stars essentially being kidnapped, let's talk for a moment about why I personally don't support it. This is also a great way, if you're watching the first installment of a podcast here, to sort of introduce who I am. My name's Tom Collihew. I am a journalist. I've covered lots of different areas of journalism: political, music, wrestling. I care about public interest and facts. I don't care about the propaganda. It means nothing to me. If anything, it makes me suspicious. I don't care about all the crap you find on Facebook pretending to be real. I don't care about people whose only mission in life is to ignore reality and have everyone tell them that they're right. I am a journalist. And while there is actively a war on the truth, journalists are needing to be additionally brave. They are having to be. Because if they're not brave, they are putting themselves in the firing line for no reason. And I literally mean that. What happened to Jamal Khashoggi should have been a warning sign to journalists around the world. It should have been a warning sign to countries around the world. Keep your distance. Don't jump in bed here. The WWE defied all of that. The current American administration is defying all of that. You know why? Because it suits their interests. They are benefiting, so nothing else matters. It makes it difficult to support WWE knowing that is a tacit backing of journalists being censored, silenced, and killed. As a journalist, knowing that I am covering a company that supports that makes it very difficult to support that. If we're going to talk about introducing me, there is a reason that I do it anyway. There will be people who call me a hypocrite. I get that. I don't agree. Because if I don't cover it, then people won't necessarily know this. They won't necessarily understand what is happening here. It is part of my purpose in life to inform people as regards stuff like this with Saudi Arabia. It is part of my purpose in life to make sure that people who watch this show, people who listen to this show, know what they are signing up for. They know what company they're supporting. It's why I covered everything of Vince McMahon in such detail, even though some of it was repugnant to say, was disgusting to read out. I still covered it in depth because you need to know what this company stands for. And that belief that I have is part of the reason that I have news to share in the first place. This deal with Saudi Arabia has huge question marks, and I'm going to continue to be digging. Even though WWE WrestleMania, they're looking at quite literally in the region of $1 billion. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? There are people who want Vince back. There are people thrilled to see Brock Lesnar back. There are people in WWE who are furious at other people within WWE. There are people that you are supporting who went to Vince McMahon's birthday and told him they wish he could come back. There are people who wrestled at WrestlePalooza. There are people that you guys ask me about on the regular. And they are still actively supportive of Vince McMahon. People like John Cena are still actively supportive of Vince McMahon. So, as regards future business ties, it is Nick Khan, the CFO of WWE, who has been the driving force between the Saudi Arabia deal. The man knows how to make money. TKO, to my knowledge, are not interested in selling. I know there's been rumours about Saudi Arabia buying WWE. The most aggressive rumour was way back when the WWE was put up for sale, and apparently a week later Saudi Arabia had already bought it, but nobody could tell me who in Saudi Arabia had bought it. Just the entire country, apparently. And people reported that. People actually spread that. There are not many opportunities, and there are even fewer places of welcome for honest journalists now. And that gap continues to close. I am watching with bated breath what the WWE does next with Saudi Arabia. Because for me, where I'm sitting, the most likely scenario is that the only answer can be more. Nothing but more. That's what I'm expecting. There's a couple of things I still want to cover. We're going to be talking about Crown Jewel. I also want to quickly go through the rumour look back on Cage Side Seats. For those unaware, this is a document which looks back 6 months to the rumours that Cage Side Seats reported 6 months ago, checks which of them were accurate and which of them were not. Cage Side Seats each day has a rumour roundup, except for Sunday when it does the rumour look back, and basically states the biggest wrestling news from what Cage Side Seats considers the most trustworthy sources. To be clear, since they started doing this, the record of their most trustworthy sources is 58.4% accurate. That's got to tell you how tough it is to be an honest journalist when it comes to wrestling. A few things I want to point out, specifically things which have been proven right or wrong. So we'll start with on March 21st, 2025. WrestleVotes says that Kamala is being discussed internally to be added to the Hall of Fame class of 2025. He was a legacy inductee, proven right by WrestleVotes. But PW Insider got one wrong. On that same track, PW Insider claims there have also been discussions about Ken Shamrock going into the WWE Hall of Fame. I will point out clever phrasing there. They haven't said that he was going to go in. WrestleVotes didn't say that he was going to go in. The phrase is, it's been discussed. A bit closer to home, according to WrestleVotes, the location of this year's Money in the Bank will be the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, California. That was proven right. That right there, that's the report. WrestleVotes saying this is happening here. Correct. One thing I do like to really point out is some of the clever phrasing that journalists use to avoid actually reporting anything. Let's give you another example. March 22nd. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, the belief is... Whose belief? Whose belief are you talking about? The belief is that Alexa Bliss will return to WWE programming when they start the Wyatt Six back on SmackDown. The belief is... What the hell is that? Anyway, she's not part of the Wyatt Six. She returned when the Wyatt Six were not back on SmackDown, and nothing has changed since. Fightful Select confirmed that Ray Phoenix is signed with WWE. At that point, that was news, and of course, that has been ticked off as correct. March 24th. During a Q&A, Sean Ross Sapp noted on Fightful he hasn't heard if Pat McAfee will be making the trip to the United Kingdom for the next 2 episodes of Monday Night Raw, but Corey Graves is supposed to be the guy who slots into that spot. Some within WWE felt that would eventually lead to his being back on the main roster. Some within WWE is another one. Of course, Pat worked both shows. Wade Barrett worked one as well, and it was a 2-man booth in the next one. Corey Graves did not work any of them. That rumour was incorrect. Also Fightful, March 25th, Fightful Select notes plans are in place for a fatal 4-way for the IC Championship at WrestleMania 41, with Bron Breakker versus Penta versus Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio penciled in. That one, indeed, is accurate. A lot of talk about Tony Hinchcliffe, strangely. This is an interesting one. There technically isn't a source here. The source is Cage Side Seats. March 26th, John Cena is currently a bigger favourite to win the WWE Championship at Mania 41 than he was when lines first opened per bet online. Of course, that did happen, but that's literally betting odds. For what it's worth, Drew McIntyre teased on the Untapped podcast that there is something big in the pipeline with The Rock. Haven't seen The Rock since. Hasn't been involved in any way, shape or form. It always makes me funny. Always makes me laugh when you get reports like that. This person's really excited for this to happen, and it just never does. Just very confusing as a prospect. It just doesn't happen. Some people, and it's funny doing this, because I'm pointing out the different ways people avoid just stating what's going to happen. And then you get reports where they do state what's going to happen. This is literally Drew McIntyre, and then it doesn't. It just doesn't happen. So I don't know. Baffling. I also want to do a quick preview of what we know for the matches that are going to happen on Crown Jewel. Now, Crown Jewel will be taking place in the near future. That's on October 11th. It's in Australia, so here in the UK, I'll be getting up around 10 a.m. I'll have a lie-in, and I'll be covering the show, and then before my partner even finishes work, I'll have covered the entirety of it. There's only 3 confirmed matches showing at the moment. John Cena versus AJ Styles. This is one of the matches that John Cena had on his list and he's been looking forward to getting to for a while. But we also have the Crown Jewel Championship matches, 2 champion versus champion matches, the old Survivor Series style. Stephanie Vacker versus Tiffany Stratton. I kind of fancy Stephanie Vacker to win this one. I think she needs it more. But we also have Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. And I've got to say, Seth Rollins has not got a great record against Cody. Even an incredibly injured Cody Rhodes still beat Seth Rollins in a Hell in a Cell. Baffling concept, should never have happened. Roman Reigns is now ready to return to the WWE, but they're saving him for a bit more pop-worthy moment. We are seeing a return to the Usos at the moment, and while Jey Uso is a bit more of a heel than Jimmy Uso, it does seem likely that the Usos will be aligning back with Roman Reigns, suggesting that there might be something of a heel turn, but in reality, we are lining up for Roman Reigns versus The Vision. Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns is something that the WWE did originally look to be building up towards for a Royal Rumble, a big moment leading up to potentially a Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins for WrestleMania. However, a bit of backstage politicking seems to now suggest that we're heading into a Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins program for WrestleMania, and that Wargames is where this will all kick off. So we're looking at a Roman Reigns team and a Vision team. The Vision will not be growing too heavily. We are not going to have 5 men from the Vision represented. Instead, he'll have some extra support, primarily from the heel side. I wouldn't be too surprised if one of them would be Logan Paul. On the Roman Reigns side, there is talk of having Jacob Fatu unite with Roman Reigns and unite with the Usos, potentially saving them from that costly heel turn. So there is potential for Jacob Fatu to be involved. I'm told that CM Punk and John Cena are not names that are currently being considered for Wargames. On the women's side, particularly for the face side, I'm told that they're building towards some sort of combination of Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill on one side. They want those two to stand united at some point. There was earlier in the year talk about the Wyatt Six and the MFT competing in Wargames. However, the feud between MFT and Wyatt Six has gone cold. I've been digging around for the reason for this, and what I'm told is that the MFT have gone cold. In fact, WWE at the moment simply don't have that much faith in MFT. There's a little bit of a break being given to Solo Sikoa in particular. The group does not work without him, and that's because he very quickly had to win and then lose the United States Championship. He was a transitional champion to get it to Sami Zayn for that match against John Cena, and that is the main reason that John Cena was competing against Sami Zayn. That's the main reason, in fact, that Solo Sikoa won the championship in the first place. So the MFT have been dropped from Wargames for the moment. It looks like we're heading towards Roman Reigns and his bloodline versus The Vision. As regards MFT, they have apparently been dropped for a rebrand to try and get them a little more serious and try to pick them up a few wins as more credible competitors. There is already talk of a program with Cody Rhodes, but the WWE do not want Solo versus Cody again so soon. They do want them against the Wyatt Six, but they also want the Wyatt Six's heels. The match between Nia Jax, Jade Cargill and Tiffany Stratton on SmackDown has not gone down too well in WWE. In fact, a lot of people really hated having to watch it. There were a number of mistakes, there was a number of blown spots, there was a huge mistake by the referee who, if their shoulders are down for free, you counter free. WWE are not necessarily blaming an individual. There is a overall feeling that they need to write the match off and pretend it never happened. So there will be a pivot away from this triple threat, though there are 2 people who are in this match who are pushing for another go at it. One of them is not. One of them very much is not. WrestleVotes have confirmed what I've already been reporting. Brock Lesnar is now on a break until being due to return by the Royal Rumble. There is a possibility he might be available for Wargames, but he is determining his schedule. He is not allowing WWE to tell him where to be. He is instead distinctly stating that he will pick his schedule and work to his own rhythm. He has already chosen his opponent for WrestleMania. Royal Rumble is when that is due to start building. As regards another story which has been confirmed, originally coming from Spoiler Warning, the Wrestling Observer have reported the Body Slam were wrong about a last minute change to the finish for the Cena versus Lesnar match. Now, On Friday, I did report that Body Slam did have this one incorrect. It was on their Patreon. They had people paying for it. They reported that John Cena and Brock Lesnar were going to go to a win to John Cena, but on the day the match finish was changed. Wrestling Observer have joined me in disputing that. Braun Strowman is apparently going to be playing the part of Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th. Now, physically, with the build that he has, that should be absolutely incredible. Also, his face will be completely covered at all times. It'll be the swamp fight all over again. The man has experience. So expect to see Braun Strowman in your cinemas soon. Second thing I want to discuss. I mentioned on Friday, and this has just been mentioned as regards Body Slam by Ishii. I mentioned on Friday that there was a report from Body Slam that Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes were all pushing for a specific finish to the match, which involved Randy Orton distracting Cody and allowing Drew McIntyre to beat him for the WWE Championship. The story was that the WWE chose not to go for it, but Cody wanted to lose the championship. I disputed this, primarily because it's not true. There is only one of those three people that there is any evidence, according to my sources, was pushing to have the match finish changed. Drew McIntyre, the man who would have come out of it with the WWE Championship. In fact, I'm told that internally, Drew McIntyre is pushing for another match with Cody Rhodes. In fact, I'm told that internally, WWE are getting kind of frustrated with the fact that Drew McIntyre only seems interested in the top championships. There was, as many have mentioned, a match that was lined up between he and Jacob Fatu. In the end, we don't entirely know why that didn't happen. But I'm starting to think Drew McIntyre might have a bit of a one-track mind. The man will be taking a bit of time off soon to work with the WWE. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. I'm going to sneeze and it's distracting me. He will be taking a little bit of time off. The WWE have helped to organise a few acting gigs for him. This will not be just the one, there'll be more coming. But when it comes to Drew McIntyre, he's kind of frustrating people a little bit at the minute. So a bit of time away is believed to be a good idea for him. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll check it out when it does become a genuine thing. And I'll sneak in a few new things in there that hopefully you guys will enjoy as well. I've been Tom Collihew. You've been fantastic. And I'll see you all very soon.